folks, hello. Sorry for those watching live. We had some technical difficulties, but we should be up and running now. We just witnessed 246 Great. Again, we were kind of discussing this already, but so far we're not really fans of this one. What'd you guys think?
They made a 20% cooler joke, so then it's a 100. It's a
all right.
10.
Well, I have something to say about the 20% cooler joke, but we'll get to that a little bit later because it is later in the episode. For now, the premise here, we were discussing this earlier, and I apologize for the technical difficulties, but the premise is just that Dash doesn't want to do cheerleading, and then she kind of just off-screen changes her mind, and then she does it, and then it's just it's just so bizarre. I don't know what went wrong with this episode.
It was a Rainbow Dash episode, that's why.
No, I like Rainbow Dash, and Jessica's not in the call with us, but she's in the chat, and she hates Rainbow Dash, and this is an episode which justifies that hate.
Yeah, I'm never a fan of Rainbow Dash.
Everything about this episode is so mean-spirited and cynical.
Well, it's also it doesn't feel like they were playing into her element at all. It's like
she just completely abandoned them multiple times.
I think
element of loyalty. Everyone is like, there it is. It's like,
so I'll try to defend. I'll try to defend a tiny part of this episode in saying that I think it's actually very in character for Dash to. Well, she said, I'll probably just mess it up anyway. And it's very in character for her to, if she's not confident she can do something 100%, to not try at all.
120%.
yeah, they hint at that. And I like that. In the very beginning, I was like, okay, I see where they're going with this. But then they don't do that at all. Then it just sort of...
that's my big problem with it.
So I think it was a mistake. It was an accidental good thing that they did. But they didn't actually, you know what I mean? They could have gone through the insecurities, but it wasn't intentional.
Yeah, we should have had that emotional moment where Dash kind of broke down crying. That could have been really meaningful, right? But again, the point when she changes her mind was off screen. I can't get over that.
She's too cool to care.
Yeah.
It's really a darn shame. And between Dash says some really horrible things. We'll get to that later in the episode. She says some really mean-spirited things. And then also, I know Snails was played off as a joke, but being motivated purely by money was funny at first. But then they kept making that same joke, and it's like, okay, we get it. He just wants the money. And we get it, Hasbro. We get it, Hasbro. And it even plays into the more emotional side with Dash, where he's trying to motivate her to do what she's supposed to do, except he's not motivated by the right things. So it just jumbles the whole thing up.
It's a Hasbro lesson. Hasbro just wants to make money off of toys, and they're just so silly that they just.
Again, I want to emphasize the Snails thing. Oh, Snips. I'm sorry, his name is Snips. The Snips thing was a joke. I just didn't really find it that funny, so it's subjective.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, did you also notice Snips and Snails? Their unicorn magic was on point this episode.
Okay, that's another note I want to mention, that this episode totally disregards magic entirely.
Snails could float when that was a mega unicorn skill. Only Starlight Glimmer could do that.
That's probably the biggest. Well, he might have done that in previous episodes actually, because he's played Buckball before.
Yeah, but I don't think he could float himself.
Yeah, I don't think he's ever floated himself.
That one kind of raises an eyebrow. You can almost say, well, maybe he's hyper-focused meditating. He can only do it while playing, and it plays into his own talents and ability. You can kind of explain that one away. But then later, we just randomly see. Do I even have a screenshot? We just randomly see a pony with the rarity wings from season 1. And then
that was
there was a pony with some kind of horn
Celestia
lock.
did that.
I know, but it just sort of all happened suddenly. They didn't explain it at all, and and
then they a really in-depth explanation of they showed the wings once, and we have to explain it for an entire minute of why the wings are there.
I'm not against it in concept, just in execution, I wasn't a fan.
Personally, for me with the wings, I didn't even notice the wings until Celestia brought it out. Maybe I wasn't paying attention.
I noticed it first thing because I recently rewatched the first 2 seasons, and it's oh wait, that's the wings that they had on Rarity that has only been mentioned once in the entirety of the entire show.
Okay, fair enough. Okay.
So yeah, again, it's okay. The magic thing, it's just sort of not a fan of that. Snails shouldn't. Did I say it right? Yeah, okay. Snails shouldn't be able to levitate, and then the wings should be a little more. Okay, it's funny. We just came from BronyCon, and Jason Thiessen, or maybe it was Larson, maybe it was both of them, were just talking about the wings thing and how important that is. To spend a few minutes establishing the importance of just randomly giving a character wings. And this episode
Right.
does the total opposite of what they were discussing at that panel. This episode just appears in front of our eyes. Like, I don't know. It's about storytelling, more about the concept.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, besides that, like, I feel like it's okay because it was Celestia doing it. She's the goddess of the world, so it's like,
yeah, we can explain it away in concept. I just don't like the execution.
oh, I see.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on from the magic thing, because that's something, again, that is an interesting point we could discuss at length, but I think we already have. So I have a bunch of notes here. Did anybody else take notes?
Yeah.
I had a few,
Other than hate.
but it's like the monologue music
But
was one of
love
my
and
big.
power.
The montage music was one of my big ones, and like the
Oh, the-
cheer music. It was just like it just.
What are you
felt
talking about?
so-
There were
that's-
two montages, and they were both horrible.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
they,
like,
they
I
used the same
agree.
music for both of them. But
That
the fact
music
that there
was the music is so grating. It was just dun 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 dun, dun like over
Yeah.
and over repeated.
Yes, if you've ever heard like cheer music in like real life, that's stuff that like will pump you up. But
Yeah.
that stuff,
It's grating and depressing music. Dun,
It
dun,
is
dun,
so-
dun, dun.
Just how like
and I normally like love like Daniel Ingram and like
I don't think
Uh,
it was him. I think it was
Yeah,
Anderson.
I don't think it was him. I don't
He
think
makes
that
good
stuff.
music.
yeah,
This is not
Daniel
good
Ingram,
music.
that better not been him.
Ugh, it just felt awful.
Yeah,
This-
I agree.
This,
Yep.
So the first random montage was of Dash asking her friends for help, and that's where she gets like the random items, like the party cannon from Pinky, and it's weird because we see Zecora, but then immediately after she says Zecora wasn't much help, so I went to the library for this book of rhyming. then what was the
That's
point of
hilarious.
Zecora?
Yeah.
I thought that was hilarious.
All
though.
right,
I thought
I
that
guess
a
it-
little throwaway gag.
I guess it was a joke. I just didn't find it funny. Humor is subjective. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to read my own notes, but I can't read my handwriting.
They were also pressuring the squad too much. It's like, oh, I want this done by tomorrow. It's like, who would you tell that to? Like, seriously, anyone trying to do their best are now going to be very cruddy because you just gave them a super, super tight deadline. Someone
Yep.
who's
Also, I
been in
don't-
a project who's done that before.
All right, let's talk. Let's really break this down. Let's talk about Dash. So obviously her motivation here is that she doesn't. I think that's pretty clear. Is that she doesn't feel like she can do a good job, so she's not trying at all. Right? Like that's kind of established, not very well, but it's established. And then we get into the crux of the issue here is when Dash just starts saying horrible things, and she doesn't like feel any remorse. We see her smiling during most of this episode, like she just doesn't give a crap. And it's not implied
Yeah.
like she's putting on a facade or something deeper like that. It's just totally flat characterization.
This is the cruelest moment I've ever seen. From
Like
her.
she makes Yona cry. I think Ocellus was
Yeah.
upset too, and
Yeah.
like and you
Yeah,
would think that would be
Jesus.
the moment she would turn around and be like, okay, I messed up. I got to make this right. But no, like she just continues saying horrible things.
Yeah.
Like no one cares about cheerleading because that's when everyone gets up to get snacks. Like you don't matter. Like there's some really cruel things here.
It's
Yeah.
really terrible.
And
That was the
Yeah.
moment that made me
She's-
hate her alive.
totally blind to the ponies crying, or Yak crying right in front of her, and how important this is to them. And
It's just
Maybe she cries
terrible.
on the inside.
I feel
This
like
is-
this is an episode I have to disregard from the canon because it's so horribly written and the characterization is so confused. I feel like even the animators didn't know whether Dash should be like laughing or smiling or upset or hiding something. Like there was no subtlety here at all. It was just
But also, it feels like whenever there's a Rainbow Dash episode, she has to be. The episode has to be forgotten from the canon. It feels like every single
no.
Rainbow Dash episode.
I still
Not
like
really.
I like
I
Rainbow
disagree
Dash
with that.
because I forget about episodes like this. This doesn't happen. This doesn't. It's not real.
No. Rainbow Dash is awesome, but the fact of the matter is they misused her in this episode.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said earlier, that slight hint at her being insecure would have been a great thing to explore, and they have in the
And, like-
past, like Sonic Rainbow or whatever.
Like Rainbow Dash is like
Yeah.
her character great because of her insecurities, but when they don't even play that at all, it's just like cringe.
Yeah, like, especially with her parents and all that pressure she was under as a young filly. Like all that backstory we bronies know about because we followed the show so closely should have been explored here, even a little bit. It's just so weird. Like so much of it happened off screen, and so much of it is totally tone deaf. Like I don't know what they're. I guess it was supposed to be funny. That's the only thing I can think of is that Dash being cruel was supposed to be funny. But
Yeah,
this
it
show,
was. This was not funny at all.
that's not what My Little Pony is about. This show has always been like upbeat and happy and positive, and this
Exactly.
episode is so cynical and so cruel. It feels like like a whole different show, like a TVY7 Cartoon Network show or something. I don't know. Teen Titans Go,
Yeah.
whatever.
It was terrible. Yeah, it's the worst.
It's really a
Yeah.
darn shame. And then, of course, should I even mention the forced 20% cooler reference?
Yeah, like 3 times. It was
Well,
so
yeah,
bad.
like 120 or 200, whatever, 120% cooler. That was like a subtle reference. But then at the very end, Smolder just says you're supposed to be 20% cool, like straight up, like not even a subtle
Yeah,
reference.
Yeah, but
callbacks were just like trying to be forced upon at that
Well-
point, and it's just like, this doesn't feel
The
right.
worst part is that blatant 20% cooler reference came at the like peak of the emotional side of the episode, like where she's starting to turn her around. They're having an argument. Yona's crying and everyone's upset, and then you're supposed to be 20% cooler.
They realize like, oh god, okay, we're making this character hated, so now we gotta be like, okay, let's throw in the references.
Yeah,
they'll like her more.
That felt insulting.
References. Let's add the references. It'll make it 20% better.
Yeah, that was just insulting. This is an insulting
Exactly.
episode.
Yeah, it's just so
This whole
bad.
episode was insulting.
And then we got another montage with the same music, the same dun 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 over and over, where they're just training. So I will turn this around a little bit. Because the very end, when they actually do their performance, once all the ponies got involved with the clapping, whatever you want to call it, like the crowd got involved.
We call it clapping.
Clap.
Or not, yeah, whatever. Anyway,
Stomping.
that was almost nice, but the rest of the episode tarnished it so badly that I couldn't really even enjoy the end.
Uh-huh.
I think the best characters were like Yona and Snails, and those were like the background characters this episode.
Yeah. Oh, I like those Celis's thing where her thing was that she was too quiet, but how did she end up getting louder? She just kind of did.
Megaphone.
The megaphone.
Megaphone, okay, yeah, like whatever.
It was in the montage. It wasn't even like a character thing. It was just a
Yeah.
megaphone. That was it.
Darn shame. Anyway, I think we should jump into individual thoughts and ratings. I think most of I know I have, but I think most of us has been ranting for too long now.
Yeah.
Draconite, would you like to start us off? We'll do 2
Sure.
minutes or less each, as usual.
Okay, sure. Yeah, this episode was absolutely terrible. Like Rainbow Dash, like she was just such a terrible person, terrible pony, and like the references were forced. The montage music was so bad. Like the only like, I was about to say like a redeeming quality. Like the only thing that I could possibly defend about it is the whole like the magic thing. But even then, that was just like not even a good part. That's just a thing, and it's not even that great. I don't feel like this episode was enjoyable, except enjoyable to crap on it. Like it was fun to insult it, but that was it. Like I really liked the original Buckball season episode, because it had that charm of like season 1 or something. And so with this episode, this Buckball season episode, Buckball episode, it felt like a season 1 or season 2 episode, but in the worst way, as I said, because like the lessons have not been learned. I'm just gonna give this like a 2.
All right.
So bad.
All right, it's 2 out of 10 from Draconite. Wow.
Laughable, yeah.
All
Oh
right,
man,
Hojo, it's your turn. Good luck.
I honestly thought mine would be the worst, but well, here it goes. I didn't like this episode. I felt like it actually brought down their character development.
Yep.
I felt like they just wanted to have like an episode of like filler for this. It's like, oh, there's Buckball again. It's like, why do we care about this made-up sport? We don't really. But the fact of the matter is, yes, they keep bringing back like stuff from previous episodes, like, oh, we're trying to stay relevant and everything. It just doesn't feel right. All of this just doesn't feel right. Their character development feels like it never happened in the first place. And, I 1.5.
Oh, 1.5.
Wow, 1.5.
What's the 0.5? I'm curious.
The redeeming qualities of Yona and Snails.
All right.
Honestly.
All right. So I'm next on the list, but I'm gonna wrap things up. So we're gonna jump down to Sonic Crew. What did you think?
In the words of Saber Spark, Rainbow Dash is really worst.
Oh wait! Now we have to explain.
Oh.
Closing ceremonies for BronyCon, or was it opening?
Yeah.
He said
No,
he
it
said
was
that on
closing.
stage. That was
It was
hilarious.
closing.
Anyway,
Was it opening or anyway?
I
Yeah.
don't know.
Anyway,
keep going.
It was closing.
it was so. this was so the cruelest level that I've ever seen from Rainbow Dash, and it made me hate her a whole lot more. And she was my favorite pony, but
Oh yeah.
this episode made me hate her a lot more now.
Aw.
Like Jesus, oh man, I really have nothing else to say of this episode. Like, I felt like the execution of like again, like we said, like she was afraid of trying, or like failing, but like they really didn't tackle that, which I thought they would, and it would have made it a lot better, but no, it didn't. But anyways, I really have nothing else much to say this episode. I'm giving this a 2 out of 10.
Ooh, all right. Another
Ooh.
2 from
Wow.
Sonic.
This is.
This one's brutal. But all
Oof.
right. Technobite, what did you think?
Who's an evil pony? You're an evil pony. Who is you? Is Rainbow Dash. Anyways, I got more enjoyment out of the side characters rather than Rainbow Dash herself. I give this 5 Yonas out of 10.
Wait,
5 Yonas out of 10.
really? You're giving it a 5?
Yes, because of Yona.
All right. All right, we got a 5 from Techno, so I suppose it's my turn. And oh boy, where do I start? So I've already mentioned, it's pretty clear I didn't like this episode. Like, My Little Pony has always been about the characters and always been about, like, there's something very happy. Like, you always know it's going to be a happy ending. And this one sort of tried to give us a happy ending. Like, oh yeah, they performed well. But even then, the happy ending is so flawed, I wouldn't even call this a happy ending. Because we've learned things about Dash which shouldn't be true. That she's basically a psychopath that has no emotion, you know? And and even then, even if like you want to go with that, at the very end she didn't give a crap that they lost the game, and that was all she cared about in the beginning. So the question is, what changed? Why did Dash change so drastically? And the answer is we don't know. The episode doesn't tell us. Like the writers don't care to tell us. They're like Dash in this episode. So much of a disappointment. It's basically insulting how they try to cram in the Brony reference, 20% cooler and all that. At the very beginning, I thought this episode had hope. I thought, like, okay, cool, they're going to explore Dash's insecurities. Maybe they're having Dash do this. Maybe Dash is doing this as a tactic to bring them closer together. So kind of like how the military might train you to be against your superior, and it brings you together as a group. But, you know, I thought they were doing something subtle, right? But no, there's nothing like that at all. It's just a horrible episode. Thinking about halfway through, I was like, okay, this is like a 5 out of 10 episode. It's just not that great. But then once Dash started insulting the ponies and the students to their face, like repeatedly saying horrible, cruel things, to the point that they're crying, and she doesn't stop there. She keeps going. She keeps insulting, cheerleading, and she's just so horrible in this episode. I've got to give it a 2 as well. That's what I was thinking at the very beginning.
Ooh.
So
Oh, wow.
So,
I
yeah.
was hoping there would be like a 2, a 4, and a 6. Like, great.
Yeah, no, it doesn't deserve that high. All right, so we have an average. The average rating from Little Shot Livestream Reviews of 246. Great. Remember, you have to say it great.
Great.
Is it 2.5? But we round up, so
Wow.
unfortunately, we have to give it a 3.
Because of me, huh?
Yeah, it's all because of you. So yeah, 3 out of 10. This is probably one of the worst episodes. And like we've gotten bad episodes where it's just kind of like, it wasn't very good. This one's like
This
one
was
of the,
like the worst.
this is one of the
This is
few
like-
that's insulting.
This is a
Insulting.
Yeah.
war
bad.
crime on My
one
Little
of the
Pony.
worst episodes.
And
ever
probably the
show.
worst part is that it didn't have to be. Just change a few things, little words here and there. Just make Dash a little bit less cruel, and it could have worked fine, right? Like I think the premise is
Yeah.
okay. A lot of concepts are actually there's good ideas here. I just have no idea why it was
Not
written so
executed
I
horribly.
think
well.
I would honestly rather watch like pretty colors on screen than this.
Yeah, because
Watching
this
a-
insults all these years we've known Dash for, and Dash can be a little bit jaded and cruel. Like it can be funny, but this episode pushed it way too far to the point where she has to be a psychopath, or this episode's just not canon. This didn't happen.
Yeah,
He's an
this
evil
didn't happen.
pony.
Let's ignore this. This never happened.
That's the camp I'm in. This episode did not happen, in my opinion. I still like Rainbow Dash because I don't believe this episode happened.
Yeah. We're just making excuses for
I know.
for this little Rainbow Dash.
Like, all right, I'm sorry for going on a tangent. We usually end by now, but I want to point out Jessica's hated Dash for making Fluttershy cry in like 28 pranks later or whatever. But I can still defend Dash in that situation because they've been friends for so long. And they're still friends. Fluttershy kind of forgave her and all that. Like I can explain away all these problems, except for this episode was just terrible. I can't
Yeah.
explain away this episode. It just didn't happen.
Yeah.
And that's that.
Yep.
All right. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully next week we get a better episode because I don't want to just be hating for
Better
the rest of
Yona
the show.
episode.
Anyway,
I
thank you
get
so
it.
much for watching. I hope to see you guys next week. We go live as soon as the credits roll, and hope to see you
Yay,
then.
Sports.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.